Amanda Lovitt was first sparked by heritage by her grandmother as a child. It is family, heritage, cooking, and crafts that fuel her passion for life. So thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you. Now comes the logistics episodes of making sure you push the right button at the right time. Okay, so this is the Anna Salen, the ship that launched 10,000 names, as I called this presentation. Actually about close to 13,500 names. It did 12 journeys all up. So with this, I won't be reading what is on the screen. You can see that. If anyone can't see it, borrow some glasses or stand up. But I have my notes and they're more interesting than what I managed to squish onto a slide. So the first arrival was the 22nd of June, 1949. And over 12 journeys until the 10th of June, 1955. So the Anna Salen, as I have discovered over many years, is a real family of people. There's lots of other ships arrived, but there seems to be, and always has been, something very special about Anna Salen. But she wasn't always called the Anna Salen. Now, when I've done this presentation in other places, I focus more on the names of the people that settled in that area. But this being a more generic state conference, obviously, I've dealt a bit more in detail about the ship itself. So these are the names that this clunky barge of a ship was known as. So it was the SS Mormacland. It was a cargo ship built by the Sun Ship Building Company, delivered in April 1940 to the McCormack Group in the United States. March 41, converted to an escort carrier and rebadged as the USS Archer. Then it went across to the Royal Navy and became the HMS Archer. Then it was converted again to a merchant aircraft carrier, the MS Empire Lagan, and returned to America in 46. 48, sold to commercial service and became the Anna Salen. Now, my father did say that it was certainly not a cruise ship, and it was more likely to break down, hit something, or something break on it. It was not a good ship. And after its passenger service, it was then renamed the Tasmania, finally the Union Reliance, and it was scrapped in 1962. I do remember my father speaking about that once and saying that it probably should have been scrapped a decade earlier. Now, with the refugee situation at the time, 1944, that was when they first realised that they were going to have to deal with the displaced persons or refugees. So by 1945, there was 11 million people classified as displaced, and 8 million of them were in Germany. So 1946, the International Refugee Organisation was formed, which then became the UN High Commission. 6 million people were civilian volunteers and forced labourers, 2 million prisoners of war, and 700,000 concentration camp survivors. So 1.2 million refused to return to their home countries because of fear of persecution, and they were the first to be referred to as refugees. In my father's case, that was very much him. He could not go home. So the numbers game. 1949, first arrival. The Arolsen archives are used by myself because they're different to the National Archives of Australia. The Arolsen archives are based in Germany, and they have the information that people provided when they applied for transport or for refugee status. The names do vary, the dates of birth vary, and it's well worth looking at those records when searching, because particularly some children were born to the first partner of a wife who was widowed. By the time they get to National Archives, they've amalgamated the family. The child is then known by the stepdad's name. So some people have found a few surprises. And I have had people go, No, that's not Mum's maiden name. It was. Please check carefully. Now, I did include the Skaugum trip on this because on the 5th of January 1950, surprise, surprise, the Anna Salen broke down and the passengers had to get off that and get onto the Skaugum. But the people that sailed into Fremantle on the Skaugum, they still very much thought of themselves as Anna Salen. So we included those as well. In 1952, when it was en route to New York, because the Anna Salen didn't just come to Australia, it went to other places, it rammed a Norwegian whaling ship. It was in the fog off Scotland. These things happen. A fire broke out in the bow and the ship was repaired and continued on her merry way. So, as I said, the ship had its problems. So this particular one is what sort of started me off originally on this project, which has turned into being much bigger than I first anticipated. A gentleman by the name of Peter Bozic was asking in the Kalgoorlie Miner newspaper for anybody that knew, Borden Hanatiki's nephew was asking, did anyone know Poita? This photograph was one that he shared in the media saying, does anybody know this person? I remembered the name from when I worked at Australia Post in the 80s, and way up, I'm going to move around here a little bit, way up in the top right corner for those with good eyesight, there is a niche wall tucked away in the red dirt. My dad has a plaque on that wall, so I felt called to help this poor man. And the small one in that photo, that's me. So that was my father. And again, this is why you don't start a project like this without a personal passion. No one wakes up one day and says, I think I'll research 13,000 people that arrived on a random boat. So he was born on the 15th of July 1928 in Hačeva in Czechoslovakia. Now, his shipping records show that he was born in Prague in 1922. 1922 because his first wife was born in 1918 and he wanted to reduce the age gap. I only found that bit out doing research because he used to tease my mother, who had no sense of humour, by the way, that she had cradle snatched him because she was 4 months older than him. And her response when I informed him that his first wife was 10 years older was not pretty. Also, where Prague came into it, I've got no idea. But anyway, he said he was born there. Hačeva is 375 kilometres northeast of Bratislava in Slovakia. It has a population of 220 now, so it's not a big place. He was the fourth child to Marta Hanušova and Daniel Haas, and they were 42 and 49 when he was born. So I decided to research the other people that came on his journey, because that included actually a next door neighbour of mine in Boulder, and then discovered all these other trips. So he arrived with his first wife, Elspeth, and her child. They followed the route of many people that came in here to the Northam camp, and then he got a job on the railways and went to Collie. They separated in Collie, typical of my father. They packed up the house, they waved goodbye to their friends, they drove to Fremantle, and he dropped her and the child and the stuff off in Fremantle and went somewhere else, and they separated. But he would not have the people of Collie think badly of her that they were separating. So that was the way that he structured it. And then he married my mother in 1961. So again, this is, she died before I was born, but she does inspire me due to the fact that she protected people and always managed to do the right thing by so many people, including becoming a righteous among the nations for protecting 2 Jewish women during World War II. She had a cupboard built in the room, and that divided the room, and she held the mother and daughter the other side of it. The daughter became the first female High Court judge of Czechoslovakia. Plus, she liked cats, so that she gets my vote because she liked cats as well. So again, I include this because he was a partisan fighter, and we've recently had Anzac Day. And while I am the granddaughter of a 10th Light Horse soldier who trained at Black Boy Camp here, Anzac Day is challenging because I have a grandfather who fought in the Czechoslovak Legion of the Hungarian Army. I have a father who was a partisan. These are not people recognised in Anzac Day, but the effect of their lives and on the lives of their descendants is something that I think we do need to keep in mind. Now, this is the camp, and I know that we've got people here that are very passionate about the camp. This is our connection from the Anna Salen to Northam. So the camp was had been here since World War I with the Black Boy camp for the 10th Light Horse Soldiers, and then the site for the refugees. Strategic site, visually isolated from the highway, which was good for both military purposes and refugee purposes. And it was too far to walk or to get anywhere, so they were isolated. Many of the refugees that landed in that camp, they were used to quite different living circumstances. I was incredibly fortunate the first time I went to Slovakia. I was taken to the home that my father was born in. My grandfather was a manager of a magnesite plant in the east of Slovakia. The family home had 8 bedrooms, 2 kitchens, servants' quarters, and inside plumbing in 1930. For my dad, landing in a Nissan hut and the concept of a dunny, there were some challenges of very basic levels for a lot of these refugees because that wasn't their lived experience. And we have so many on this shipping list that state that they're an unskilled factory worker. They were an engineer by trade. They were a first aid officer. No, they were actually a psychologist or a surgeon. We have so many people that came with phenomenal skills that weren't recognised. And I do struggle frequently with the fact that we have not got past that point. And I was just out of sheer curiosity, I was looking at the fact that there is still a camp for refugees here. And some fun facts for you that I found this week. It is costing $550,000 a year per person to keep them in that camp. Now, that is not a disclosed figure because the government refers to it as not for publication because the company running it is a private organisation. 203 people in there at $550,000 a year. There is an immense amount of Commonwealth funding keeping this camp here. And it would cost $85,000 a year to have that person live in a community. So I think we do need to learn some of these things. So the English classes were held at the Northam camp. My dad learnt English on the ship as well for 6 weeks, which did not prepare him for Australian. And he told the story of getting off the boat and using his best English saying, "Good morning, sir. How are you?" And the response was, "G'day, mate, how you going?" And he had no idea what was said. One of the success stories of a passenger is this lady. Some of you may remember her from the fashion industry. She arrived as a refugee on the Anna Salen. So did John Orsick, the actor, in a number of different plays. And this is one of my favourite connection stories from the Anna Salen. The photo of the little girl on the left, Maria Garkov, she was recognised by somebody reading the social media page and went, "I know that little girl. I had my photo taken with her. I didn't remember her name. We were children." And the photo was taken in the camp before they came to Australia. And so she shared the photo. She said, "Look, she's in the same outfit. We had these photos taken together." Now, both of them, they're in their 80s, but they have actually connected. They've been speaking to each other. Maria went on to become a fashion model in America, and they've connected, which I think is wonderful. Some of the others are not so happy where this gentleman, the spellings were what sent me down the rabbit hole trying to work out where he was. And his daughter emailed me and said that she'd lost contact with him. She couldn't find him because she was looking for the original spelling, which wasn't there. And so she found him eventually. Now, my advice to anyone doing any form of family heritage research is keep looking. The photo on the left, the black and white one, the gentleman on the right, the portly gent, that's my granddad. And on the next to him is his niece Jolana, then his nephew Wilhelm, his sister Leona, her husband Eugen, and on the left is Stefania. Now, I knew from the records that my granddad died in 1956 in Bratislava. Stefania, I only found 3 years ago because I thought she had died with the rest of the family, but she hadn't. The four in the middle, my great aunt, my great uncle, and their two children, they all died in Auschwitz in 1942. My grandfather's family were Jewish. Stefania, I eventually found only 3 years ago, and her granddaughter came to visit me. So that's her on the other side there. And I have a lot of Australian relatives, and nobody ever thinks that I'm related to any of them. But oddly enough, they pretty much picked up straight away that we were related to each other. So the fact that you just keep looking, somebody's going to turn up somewhere. And and I think too, I look at my grandmother's brothers, sisters, and family here in Australia that I grew up with, and I think I have the same biological relationship with these people. That's my great uncle, my great auntie. So I have a connection with them. And over 9,300 passenger stories are now on social media. I use the social media platform because it's actually finding the younger people that are looking for families. They look up a surname. They might be in their 20s or 30s and go, I found great granddad's name. I wonder where it is. And it'll come up through the Anna Salen page. It's a way of reaching out. It's also low maintenance. I don't have to keep going with websites and things like that. And this is a story about the connections made. So it's a photo of my father feeding a quokka, or as he pronounced them, kvokkas. And I'm very proud of the fact that I have raised my children to be heritage-minded. Don't know if you can see there's a watch being worn there. That same watch was worn 3 weeks ago today by his grandson on his wedding day as a mark of respect. And my favourite saying of my father's, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. And I can guarantee you that when my father arrived in Australia in 1951, stepped off the boat 1st of January 1951, if anyone had told him that, 70 years later, this would be his descendants, because at the time he was married to a woman 10 years older, he had a stepchild, he would never have thought he was going to have a child and then this family that just keeps growing lately. So the whole project actually started from my uncle's advice. So my uncle, my dad's brother, he was a famous film critic in Slovakia, an author and a translator. He died 6 years ago, and he was referred to as the doyen of Slovakia, very famous over there. And he kept saying to me, I have written my story, but you must write the family story. This is up to you now. So he was 99 when he died, when he handed over the baton. Haven't written about it as such, but I do talk about it, and I do try and help other people to make their connections. Managing the whole project of the Anna Salen has taken on its own life force because I get queries constantly from people saying my family were on this ship. Every time I do an event, someone pipes up, and I know there's someone here who's got a connection to the ship today, and that's quite normal at every event. I do tailor each presentation to where I am so that there is chance of people being connected. September last year, I spoke at the Great Southern Museum in Albany, and one of the photos that I used, because it was for local content, was a photo of an infant, little boy. And partway down the audience, this gentleman leapt to his feet with his arm in the air and went, "That is my baby brother." And apparently he had died quite young. He was so shocked that photo was in there. I didn't know he was coming. So it wasn't a planned thing. But it is really important to keep looking through this history, and more new stories come up, new connections come up. I will be back in Northam apparently on the 22nd of August, which there's an event coming up that they're going to be promoting, so I will be back for that one. And later in the month, I'm speaking at the Historical Society in Darwin, because The Anna Salen passengers did not just come to WA. They went all across Australia. Some left. Not everybody stayed here. Some moved to America. A large number went back to Europe as well. There was a lot that actually went back to Germany and back to their homelands. My father didn't. He wasn't physically or financially able to ever do that. And he actually said at one point, we were talking about me making a visit to the family, and his comment was, "Don't go while I'm alive." And so I didn't. And he died in the October, and for Christmas, my husband bought me a ticket. So I went over and met the family. But those connections are really important, because I think for a lot of people that came here at that time, they struggled and they didn't cope. We are very similar in a lot of ways to the Aboriginal people, where there has been generational trauma through the Jewish families like mine. And it's only when you go and you see that life did change for the people there. That my dad was mentally stuck. He left destruction and chaos, and he couldn't visualize that it got better. And it's really important to make those connections and to go and see where they were, because it's only then that you go, okay, life did return to some semblance of normality. Now I'm probably a bit under time budget for an unusual, very close to. But I am happy to answer any questions that you've got. Yes. Oh, just wait for them to bring a mic. Yeah.
It's not really a question. It's a comment.
Yes.
I worked with Nonya on the. I was the archaeologist working with her on Northam Camp.
Yes.
And we did Point Walter and Greylands, didn't
Yep.
we? Northam was first, and we were, because as an archaeologist, I like looking at history as well.
Of course.
I was delving into the history as Nonya was,
Yes.
and I found I was appalled at the menu that was provided to these people. It was just appalling.
Yes.
Because at that stage, I'd looked at that, and then when we went to Point Walter, we looked at that one. Point Walter was for the English settlers.
Oh, yes.
Not the Europeans.
Oh, yes.
Completely different standard of housing.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
sort of thought, what? Were
Yeah.
we thinking these people were not the same?
Oh,
and then I can remember,
yeah.
and that was when I heard about 10-pound poms.
Yes.
I'm the product of poms who came out to Sydney, and I said to my mum, "Oh, you were a 10-pound pom, were you?" And she just looked at me, and the ground should have opened up, and I was informed that no, they were not 10. So there was this huge area of discrimination that was running through Australia.
Yes.
In the 1950s with immigrants. The English people, they wanted, because they were like us.
Yes.
And then there were all these other people.
Yeah.
But I attended a Steiner school in Sydney, and I wanted the lunch that my Hungarian friend had, because it was far more interesting than my cheese sandwich. Her bread was great.
I can totally relate to that.
I was amazed that I'd managed to get to, when did we do that, Nonya? In the early 1990s we started? Probably, I think it was, probably 1990. And I thought, how have I got to this stage and not learnt about this faction of our history?
Look,
So as you say, and as Nonya will say, this other migrant story needs to be told.
It does, absolutely. Yeah. And I married an Englishman, much to my father's horror. The Slovaks referred to English people as Johnny Bulls. That's because they thought that every man was called Johnny, and to put it bluntly, that they were full of bull. So they were called Johnny Bulls. My uncle called my husband that, and so did my father. I had to justify it to Dad, going, "Wait till you meet him. He's really quite nice." And then, much to my absolute joy, discovered that he's actually got Polish ancestry. But my in-laws were English, obviously. And frequently, they would talk about their time during the war and singing in the bunker or something. And I for a long time, I didn't say anything because they were intimidatory. And then it got to the point, I'm like, no, hang on a minute. You're talking to somebody whose dad was a partisan fighter, who had PTSD, whose uncle spent 4 years in the Mauthausen concentration camp, and whose great-aunts and uncles died in Auschwitz. I don't want to hear about you singing in a bunker and being stuck with bread and butter. I don't want to hear about it, because you need to realise that the world is bigger than what happened to you there. But there is definitely that divide, and I can associate with the lunches as well. My mother was not a good cook. And one of her favourite sandwiches to make was banana and honey. Now that in a lunchbox for a few hours, it's not a sandwich by lunchtime. And my favourite thing in the my favourite thing in the world was Dad would buy the blocks of mozzarella, the ones that have got the knob on the top, and that was my treat. I got the knob. And my granddaughter, who's 6, whenever we buy cheese now, she's like, I need the knob, Grandma, because she calls him Pop Pop. He died 30 years ago, and she talks about Pop Pop, and she swears that he visits her. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, she likes that for the same reason. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, sorry. There we go. Run out of time, but you can talk to me later.
Thank you very much.